Hello everyone, this is R. Suresh Kumar, working as Assistant Professor, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Aeronautical, Hyderabad. Today we will discuss about the estimation flood risk and the flood plan management. So very important nowadays. All the cities and some of the interior areas are also immersion due to of the rainy seasons. Lot of colonies will be immersed. There is a lot of affected due to the unplanned constructions and urbanization, fast urbanization and development. So based on this one, what you have to be estimation of flood risk, what is the plans to be for the management of the floods will be discussed in this topic. Let us see that the flood risk, the flood risk estimation essential for the safeguarding as communication and infrastructure. And the floodplain management involves the strategic references and flood implants and enhanced resilience. Understand the flood dynamics helps to making informed planning and policy decisions. So based on this these topics can be contents, understand why dynamics of the floods will be forms in the planning and policy decisions can be taken for the flood management. Next, what is the flood risk? Flood risk is the combination of probability of flood event and the potential consequences measured using the equation. Flood risk is equal to hazard into exposure into vulnerability. So this is the hazard into exposure into vulnerability. So this is the using the only for the our calculation of the flood risk. Next, what are the key factors for the measurement of the floods? The flood frequency can be measured by example 10 years or a decade or 100 years of the floods of the can be taken for the floods. Majorly these floods will be taken as for the estimation of construction of any of the hydraulic structure. This data can be very helpful for calculation. Next, peak discharge. Peak discharge is also be calculated for meter cube per second units on particular area of the town which is affecting. Next, flood depth velocity. The flood depth during the heavy floods, how much depth of the water can be stagnated. Next, duration of the inundation. So duration, how much the water can be stagnating on particular area. Next, affected population and assess the value. These are some key factors of the measurement of the flood risk of the estimation. Next, hazard assessment. What is meant by hazard assessment? In the hazard assessment, it means the measure the flood probability based on the rainfall and river flow terrain and involves the floodplain mapping using the digital elevation model. Digital elevation model is the one of the by using the GIS. We have to prepare the maps. So that is the by preparing the DEM maps, flood mapping will be the elevations of the different type of the elevations of the area can be known for the on particular area. So it can be whether it is up and downs and all the flood floating and the discharge calculation will be done. All are done in the digital elevation model of the map by using the GIS. Next, identification of the undulation areas under the different written periods. So these written periods can be also be estimated at the hazard assessment. Next, exposure assessment. In the exposure assessment means the quantities of the people and infrastructure and also economy growth and also etc. located on flood area. It means that these are all the topics, these all points will be considered under the development area. So especially in the urban areas. Next, use the population density. How much the area of the population are affecting our residents on particular area which is going to be influenced. Next, building data. How many buildings is there? Transportation roads. How much that means the roads and the transportation facilities on a particular area. Next, high exposure means the high potential losses and even with the low hazard. Low hazard is the for the calculation of the exposure of the assessment. Next, vulnerability assessment. What is the vulnerability assessment? The vulnerability assessment is nothing but how the sustainable of the exposed area are being damaged. Next, depends upon the building type, social preparedness, response capacity. Vulnerable communities suffer the greatest impact, even under the moderate floods. Next one is the very important risk zone maps. What are the risk zone maps of the flood areas? In this one, combination of the hazard and exposure and vulnerability of the layers. Next, creating using the GIS and multi-criteria analysis. GIS will be widely used for the preparation and collecting the data and analyzing the data, and also be knowledge can be improved due to the on particular area for the data collection. Next, use for the land use planning and insurance emergency responses can be also be done. These are the risk zones. Next one is very important. Importance of the flood risk estimation. What are the importance of the flood risk estimations? And the flood risk estimate helps to proposal area and flood mitigations and also emergency preparations. The effective estimation of reduces economic losses and the potential human lives. This is the important of the flood risk estimation. Next, these are the area which is already going to be shaded area, which is showing that flood risk areas, which is showing in the above that what is the low and on particular area. So see that one the diagram, low area it can be affected and high moderate can be affected and high it can be affected. The area above the 500 years of the floodplain area currently regulated 500 years floodplain and the area currently regulated 100 years of the floodplain. So these are the floodplain risk of the importance of the flood risk estimation. In this diagram, what we understand, how much the area will be low, moderate and high will be affected on the floods. So these are the area currently regulated as 500 years of the flood estimation. Next, the area of the currently required as per the 100 years of the flood drain. Generally, we have to be available only 100 years data for the on particular area. 500 years above flood plain will be the difficult to plan. So that is the important. Next, key contents of the floodplain management. What are the key points into the flood management? In the flood management aims to balancing of the development as well as flood risk reduction. It includes the zoning and building codes and flood mitigation projects. Next, and also community engagement, education, visual successful. See the diagram which is affected. Here the flood fringe is here the fill also, and it is one a flood fringe. And in between these two, the base flood of the PBE and normal channel, and also floodway and floodplain, floodplain. So these are the characteristics of the some of the characteristics of the floodplain. See the diagram, you can understand easily. The normal channel will be the flowing here, and it can be filled up to this level, up to the this level. Up to the this level. So that's why you have to be up to the level. The water will be the flood. The flood will be affected. It means that already comes under the same level, and this is also almost up to fill all the areas which is characteristic of the flood. So this is a very big problem. You have to be planned and management of the flood. So next, types of the flooding. Here, types of the flooding. In the types of the flooding, that occurs the river flow, their banks during the high rainfall, and coastal flooding is caused by storm surges and high tide affecting of the shoreline areas. Next, urban flooding results from the inadequate drainage and intense of the rainfall of the events. Intense of the rainfall events. So types of the flooding here we have to understand that it is affected in the not affected in the up to the high level, but this one side is also immersed the due to the overflowing. So this is the what I told, that this is the unplanned of the construction of the areas of the wind. Nowadays Hyderabad is very affecting, and Hydra will be the water which is affected will be reducing the unauthorized construction. So based on this one, what happens? It may be not affected, and also those are area which is affected by the floods, and so most of the lives and also the properties will be damaging. So about 20 to 25 or 30 minutes of rainfall, it is more effective. It seems to be river. Some of the areas may be canals like that. So that's why you have to avoid to plan and manage the all the flood area which is frequently affecting. Next, factors influence flood risk. What are the factors can be flood risk can be affected? Based on these topographic significance and effect of the water flows of the and accumulate. Land use changes such as urbanization can increase the flood potential and increases the flood potential. Climate variability and change the impact of the frequency and servicity of the floods. Servicity of the floods. So based on this one, floods of the way, floods and floodway, and floodway of the floods will be the one side the another. So the percentage of the annual changes will be floods will be affected, and the stream of the channels will actually this channel will be the there. But due to during the heavy floods, what happens? It may be increases and blue affecting of the on particular area due to increasing. It may affect immerse all the affected areas. Will be this is the main factors will be influenced on the. Next, data collection for the flood risk estimation. What are the data can be required for the flood estimation of the flood risk estimation? What are the data? Actually, the topographic data will be very, very important. Why topographic data is essential for modeling? Topography means the geological conditions and soil conditions and levels, and also the some of the area which is already types of the soil and rainfall data previous which is affected on particular area, how much the water can be flowing. So these are all the data and geological data, and there is rocky area or any other soils or sandy soils like that. Whichever is the data will be the very, very important. Next, hydrological and meteorological data predict the flood events. How the hydrological data? Hydrological data is nothing but the rainfall. The rainfall of the previous of the 2 or 3 or 100 years of the data which is all to be collected, and meteorological data will be predicted in the events. Next, historical flood records provide insights into the patterns and the risk levels. Insight patterns and the risk levels is the very, very important. Next, hydrological modeling of the techniques. Hydrological modeling of the techniques. How the hydrological modeling techniques? The hydrological modeling techniques can be run off the river flow during the storm of the event. Common models of the including HEC, HMT, SWAT, and MICSHE. These are the some of the common models can be used for the flood hydrological modeling techniques. What is meant by HEC? Let us see HEC Hydrological Engineering Centers. Hydrological Engineering Center and hydrological HMS means hydrological modeling of the system. So what is meant by SWAT? SWAT soil and water assessment of the tool. We called it shortly called as a tool. So and MICSHE. MICSHE is the system of hydrological European. This models of details input data and prescribe the flood of the system hydrological European. These are the called sheet. What I meant mic system hydrological modeling system. So that is some of the models can be used for the calculation of the hydrological data on particular area which is affected in the floods. This hydrological modeling approaches. How the hydrological approaches? The hydrological models assess the water movement within the river and the flood plains. They help to deline the flood extents and depth under the various scenarios. They help to delineate flood extents and the depth under the various scenarios. So what is the meaning of that? They help to deline flood extend the depth under the various conditions. Scenarios will be various condition means geological conditions and also slope and also type of the flow and the availability and catchment area runoff will be available. Yeah, that is also some of the wind velocity and also topography is very very important and also climatic conditions maybe it's affected for the hydrological modeling approaches. Next, hydrological engineering centers of river analysis HECRAS and Tuflo. Tuflo is the separate software which is widely used for the floodplain analysis. By flood analysis, you have to use the Tuflo of the software can be used for the hydrological analysis. Next, probabilistic flood risk assessment. In the probabilistic flood risk assessment is the likelihood to flood events over the specific of the periods. Next, they incorporate variability in the rainfall and river flows and the other factors. This approach supports a risk-based decision making and insurance assessment is also there. Making insurance assessment also affected in the published flood risk assessment. Next, probabilistic flood risk assessment can be different type of the converted into different type of the floods. The step one, assess the appropriate flood risk assessment. First one is, second one, avoid, apply the sequential approaches, and step three, substitute, apply the sequential test of the site level and also the control source design of the floods and deficiencies and mitigate. Example, flood resilient and construction. So these are the steps which is follow flood resilient constructions. And flood risk management can be modified of the based on these 5 types. Thus 5 steps will be taken for the probability of the flood risk assessment. Next, flood frequency analysis. In the flood frequency analysis means the flood frequency analysis determines the probability of the different flood magnitudes, and also the statistical techniques are also used for apply the historical data and the results from the design standards and zoning of the regulations. They are supposed to be. The next one, geological information, GIS of the flood risk. Very, very, very important. Geological information system software can be highly affected by calculating affected of the flood risk. How GIS can be affected? GIS can be recorded all type of the slopes map and also recording the areas, land use, land cover and deflected, how much the water can be flowed from which side it may be flowing due to the runoff calculations. All can be done by using the GIS software. Why? Because it is most affected for this effect for the calculation of the GIS. And it also a visualization of the flood hazard and areas and mitigation options and GIS based tools facilities and stakeholder communication of the planning. The climate change and flood risk projections. The climate change influence of the flood risk management is the weather. Its projections inform the adaptable flood management strategies and incorporating the climatic into the risk assessment enhance the resulting of the planning. So this is some changes of the climatic change of the risk projections. Climatic change risk means temperature may be increased, maybe decreases. Maybe increases, maybe decreases means it can be affected by the evaporation and infiltration can be affected for the climatic change of the conditions on particular area. Next, climatic change and the flood risk projections. So based on this diagram, we can understand the risk analysis, disaster risk reductions, and also the response and recoveries, and also risk analysis. This is all flood management comes under this one. And here the subway are the risk assessment and evaluation of the measurements, and also the natural weather production in the catchment, and technical floods which is also going to be affected, and the land use regulations, land cover regulations, and building of the codes, and also the insurance training experiences, and early warning of the systems. Early warning of the system is the affecting of the floods. Next, emergency measurements is there, and relief and rehabilitation and reconstruction and the event documentation also there, and also data analysis modeling and mapping. Data analysis model and mapping is there also there, and plain assessment, risk assessment, and evaluation of the measures. So these are some points which is also can be affected for the flood management. There is one part is there, 1, 2, 3, 4 part is there, and again it can be converted different type of the each of the events of the floods, climatic change of the risk assessment for the flood risk. Next, flood mapping of the zoning. Flood mapping is the areas of the risk flood under the different scenarios. What are they? They are the guides to the political development restrictions, and regular updates are necessary to reflect changing of the conditions of the data on particular area. Flood mitigation strategies. Flood mitigation strategies means flow was of the control of the water flow, and non-structural measures, and also policies and warning, land use planning. A combination of the strategies often provide most effective risk of the reductions. Next, community engagement of the education. So this is a very, very important community engagement. Why you have to prepare in the community engagement, how the construction will be done, and also they are people are going to be educated by, and also going to be by purchasing of the any of the residential plots which is affected or the rainfall or not can be taken care very effectively. The public awareness and also involve the local communities planning for enhancing the effectiveness of the measures, how the it can be affected on particular area for the uh, for the floods. Next, educational initiative promote resilience support for the flood management policy. Educated by the another education. Next, case studies. Urban flood management. Some case studies, small case study. We have to see that the urban area of the unique changes are due to high impervious surface coverage, green infrastructure, and like permeable pavement, reduced runoff, and integrated planning and combinations, structural and non-structural measures for urban resilience. Data limitations and uncertainty effective model, rapid land use changes or the frequent changes, and also climatic changes into additional unpredictability in the risk assessment. So these are the some of the changes of the flood risk estimations. And future directions of the floodplain management. The advantage remote sensing and GIS and real-time data can be removed for moderating or giving the guidelines for the how the and also machine learning techniques also potential for flood prediction of the models can be how it can be affected. Next, collaborated across the jurisdictions and enhances and regional flood risk management of the affected for the based on these guidelines only we have to be future directions of the how to control the how to manage the floods will be the no. Next, again, this may accurate floods. The estimation and visual not affected the floodplain management, combination modeling, and the mapping and community engagement leads to better resilience, and ongoing research technology advances with continue improve flood mitigation of the strategies. So, National Weather Services and also United States Army of the Engineers and hydrological modeling, and there are some risk assessment techniques can be these are the best examples of the case studies of the flood management. That's all. Thank you so much.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.